Uh-oh. We're breaking
Uh,
up.
are we having issues here? I'm making sure we got everything recording. Okay.
All right, good.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you for speaking with our Green Desert audience. I'm so excited. Elizabeth has raved about you.
I'm delighted to be with you guys.
Okay, so I know you don't have a whole lot of time, so I'll get
Now,
right to it. It's
now
innovating
we're,
housing. Go
well,
ahead.
let me just ask you, where exactly are you?
We are in Phoenix, Arizona at
Oh,
Green Desert TV.
okay, fantastic.
And you were just in Phoenix, right?
I've been there recently, absolutely. It was wonderful. I always enjoy coming there. Just make sure you have a good air-conditioned place, that's all.
And it's that time.
Yeah.
All right, let's get right to the showcase because this is a huge deal. But I want to dumb it down for people who aren't real familiar with what HUD does and affordable housing and everything. What is the significance of this showcase?
Well, this is actually the first time anything like this has ever been done. But, one of the big missions of HUD is to provide affordable housing for our populace. And that's getting to be quite a significant problem right now. If you look at things like regulatory costs and zoning, for a new single-family construct, you're looking at 25 to 27% increase in costs. For a multifamily, 32.1% up to 42%. It's massively out of control. But one of the other areas that can be controlled is actually the constructions themselves. So by using, accessory dwelling units, tiny homes, new types of modular constructions, 3D printable houses, a whole host of new things that have come out, we're actually able to lower those prices quite substantially. A manufactured house, a lot of people think of trailers when they think of manufactured housing. That's long gone. Now we're talking about places that look better than site-built homes, that cost significantly less, and that weather storms better. And that resilience, that is so important because, we have all of these catastrophic events going on all the time. And if we have to keep rebuilding the same way all the time, we're never going to make any progress. So this showcase is going to highlight both of those things. And we want it brought to the attention not only of the public, but the legislators as well. We want them to see what is available now because a lot of the new policies and procedures will take these kinds of things into consideration.
Okay. And I know Elizabeth Singleton with Build Us Hope, you invited her to this showcase. Why?
Yes, because they are doing something that's really pretty cool, building holistic tiny home communities. So one of the things that the government did wrong in the past is they would build these big places and they didn't have the support structures around them. And as a result of that, the places just deteriorated and became cesspools. We've learned from those lessons. And the kind of thing that Build Us Hope is doing is showing that, with the proper amount of forethought, you can create something that is really extremely nice, for a lot of our veterans and chronically homeless population. And there's so many people who are just beyond where they would be able to afford, a regular house or apartment, who can now fit into this community. And the nice thing is, when you're able to purchase a tiny home, you start that nest egg because the average net worth of a renter is $5,000. The average net worth of a homeowner is $200,000. That's a 40-fold difference. It makes a huge difference in the trajectory of your life and what happens to your progeny. And this is one of the ways that we can begin to change those trajectories.
Well, and in speaking of change and the money, banks and lending have been a huge part of this. How do you see this changing? Do you see banks doing anything, not being so timid with these tiny home projects?
Well, naturally, if you're not dealing with as big a mortgage, you can take a little more risk. So yeah, we do see the banks doing that. And, there are ways that we're working with the banks also in terms of looking at some of the defects in lending policies so that people aren't afraid to get in there because they might get hit by a False Claims Act or something like that. We're in the process of ameliorating those things too, to make more lenders available to people.
Well, and I think we could all day talk about all of the things wrong with why I can't get a house and this person can't get a house. But in your ideal world, what role would HUD play in making this all dream?
Well, HUD plays a gigantic role, obviously, just in terms of supporting, millions of families across the nation. But one of the things that we're doing now is looking at ways that we can actually move people up the ladder rather than keeping people stationary where they are. We have people who've been in HUD-supported housing for decades. It's not unusual to find families that have been there for 30, 40, 50 years. And part of the reason is that we have systems in place that keep people in there. For instance, if you make more money, you have to report that so that your rent can go up. Well, that's not much of an incentive to get a raise, is it? Or
Right.
if you bring another income-producing person to your home, you have to report that so your rent can go up. That's not very creative. And don't think about getting married. You probably lose everything. These are crazy policies that keep people mired in poverty. We're in the process of changing those things too. So in addition to looking at more economical models for building home, and in addition to looking at the regulatory barriers, we're also looking at some of the structural barriers that the government itself has put in place in order to really liberate people. Because what is our most precious resource? It's our people, right? So we need to be thinking about how do we develop our people. If we're going to be able to compete in the future with China, who has 4 times as many people, or India with 4 times as many people, we have got to develop all of our people.
So this actual showcase then, what are people expected to see? Because we're talking about the change we want to see, but
Yeah.
how are we thinking this is going to come from this showcase?
Well, they're actually going to see models of these homes. They're going to see some of the tiny homes, the ADUs. There's going to be a display about 3D printable houses. There's actually going to be a 3D printable car there. There's going to be lectures. There's going to be panel discussions. There'll be all kinds of things that keep people occupied.
So it sounds like it's not just going to be educational, it'll be fun.
Of course it'll be fun. We'd never do anything that's not fun.
Talk to me a little bit more about Build Us Hope. What are you hoping other people can take from their projects?
Well, I hope that other people will be able to see that tiny homes are not something to be shunned because of the way that Build Us Hope has planned communities, not just a single house, but a whole community. And when people are able to see how that works and how that looks, it actually becomes something that's appealing to people. A lot of this is really educational and exposure, so that people stop being afraid of things. You've heard of NIMBYism, not in my backyard. That's a big problem in America. And a lot of it is just secondary to people having misconceptions about techniques and about other people.
As far as HUD is concerned, what's your perfect world? Where do you see things going after this showcase?
Well, my perfect world, as far as HUD is concerned, is to change from an organization that maintains people to an organization that sets people on a trajectory to success in life. That's what I would like to see.
Okay, and what about people at home who are buying houses and aren't buying houses? What can we do as a community to help move this forward?
Well, you can talk to each other and talk about what can we do in our own communities to help some of the homeless veterans and some of the elderly who perhaps don't have a support system. Some of the people who may just be incapable of taking care of themselves. We as a society have a responsibility to take care of the people who cannot take care of themselves, and do it in the most comfortable way that we possibly can. And I think that's something that will make us all feel better about ourselves.
Mhm. What role does sustainability play in all of this?
It plays a huge role. You might have noticed in 2017 when Hurricane Irma came through Florida, and it didn't do anywhere near as much damage as everybody thought. Why is that? Because, 10 years prior to that, when they had a bad hurricane system, they set up some real appropriate mitigation processes. And the houses were built in a different way, different kind of windows, different kinds of foundational structures, and it withstood the hurricane to a much greater extent. And that's why in 2018, Congress dedicated a large amount of money, way more than had ever been done before, $35 billion for resiliency. And that's being enacted across the country now. And I think as we get more and more into thinking that way, we're going to find less and less damage.
So, but I'm talking more with self-sufficiency. So my website, GreenDesert.org, our whole focus is just showing people how to be more self-sufficient. So you can imagine why tiny homes are huge for me. But for that audience, why would you say this is the direction we want to go in?
Well, as you probably know, we've been pushing the whole self-sufficiency program and expanding our self-sufficiency actions simply because it strengthens the community and it strengthens the nation. Think about it. For every person that we don't have to support, that's more money that you have. And also that person now becomes a tax-paying, contributing member of society who may discover a new energy source or the cure from some disease. That's why self-sufficiency is so important. And, there was a time in America where we used to talk about the can-do attitude. That's what self-sufficiency is all about. We have to bring that back so that you're thinking, yeah, this is a problem, but what can I do? That was something that my mother always emphasized. She only had a third-grade education, but believe me, she would never accept any kind of excuse from us. There was no excuse. It doesn't matter what happened. Do you have a brain? Then you could have figured it out. And it did make a big difference. There's no question.
So we've got to stop accepting excuses.
It would be very helpful. Excuses are easy to make. It's easy to blame somebody else and point the finger. But, there was a poem she used to always say called "Yourself to Blame." And we didn't want to hear that poem anymore, so we stopped making excuses.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about tiny homes and changing our lifestyles?
I think probably the biggest misconception is that once you accept a smaller lifestyle, that's where you end up. And that's not necessarily true. It's a stepping stone. It's an opportunity to begin to accumulate some resources and some wealth. And the nice thing about home ownership is it makes you think in a different way. Instead of always calling the plumber, you start thinking, maybe I should just lift the lid and look in there and see why that toilet isn't flushing. Wow, I can fix that. A lot of things begin to change when you're a homeowner.
Ownership. You start to own things in more ways than one, right?
Absolutely. It makes all the difference in the world. You take care. If you own it, you take care of it. There's no question about that.
I try to get that across to my kids, but for some reason they don't get it.
Keep trying.
Okay,
don't give up on them.
One more thing. What do you want people to walk away with from this showcase?
I want them to walk away with a feeling of pride, knowing about the innovative and entrepreneurial spirit of their fellow Americans, and that there is no problem that is too big for us to solve if we're willing to work together.
But what about those naysayers who are kind of against the government and don't want to go this route? What do you say to them?
I don't say anything to them. I say, show them. You're not going to convince them with arguments because they've already concluded that, you know, this is an evil country and that everybody's against them and all that. Just show them. It's just like right now in the economy. You know, manufacturing jobs are coming back in droves. Unemployment at the lowest levels seen since people have been keeping records. People can find jobs. There's training environments. There's all kinds of things, good things happening. If you're looking for good things, and if you're looking for bad things, you can always find them too. But, you know, I always emphasize what's good and take that and use that to get where you want to go.
That's pretty awesome. Anything I'm missing that you want to ask or answer?
Yeah, but I've written 9 books about all that stuff. I don't have time for it.
Well, I do appreciate you sharing with the Green Desert audience. And if you don't mind saying something with Green Desert, like thanks for talking to my audience or anything like that, we're called Green Desert TV.
Well, it's been a pleasure being on Green Desert TV. You know, it sounds like an oxymoron, Green Desert, but there are a lot of oases in deserts, and Green Desert is one of them.
I love it. Thank you so much. And we are grateful for everything you're doing. I hope this is a great success. We know it will be. And we've got Elizabeth here, so we know what she's doing.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Very nice meeting you, Secretary.
You too.